Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Dennis, how are you? Glories to Prabhupada. Well, glories to the Sankirtan movement. Good to see you, by the way. Very good. It's a sign that you're taking this process more seriously as you grow older. Because old age is a revelation that time is so precious. Actually, Chanakya Pandit, he said that time is so valuable that you cannot replace it with millions and millions of gold coins. That's how valuable it is. There was a recent story that came out, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, about a fellow that owns a large company in America, Lululemon, I believe it is. And he has been diagnosed with a terminating illness. And now he's spending tens of millions of dollars to save his life. Very interesting. So this is a reality that we must all face. For one who is born, death is certain, and for one who has died, birth is certain. Dennis, that is Krishna's message to the conditioned soul. Do not think that you'll live on forever, because it's not real. This material world, as we discussed yesterday, is a prison house for the conditioned soul. And we're covered by layers and layers of confusion. We can see that in the way the material world operates. Right now, it's in a state of chaos. So much chaos. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, I was watching a YouTube video yesterday. They're saying that this war in Israel and Gaza, the Palestinian war, may proliferate into America. You never know about these statements, but at the same time, they're saying the FBI has released a notice to the people that there are over 30 cities under threat of attack because of this war from the Muslim people, because they are so concerned about the situation there. So unfortunate, very unfortunate. As we know, war is caused by the collective bad karma of the people. This is not just a speculation. This is a fact. If you commit sinful life ongoing and without any mercy, without any repentance, without any change, then it becomes a burden on Mother Earth, Dennis. It's a burden. This burden expands, and as a result, Mother Earth reacts in the form of natural disasters and wars, from earthquakes to hurricanes to war. This is it. Mother Earth is alive. We are insignificant, all of us, very insignificant people. We're specks, as we talked about earlier, 1/10,000th, the tip of a hair size, but you think you're important. This is stupidity. We cannot be covered over by stupidity. It's just like democracy. Democracy is insanity. Fools voting in fools. And then these fools dragging us into hell. Up here in Canada, major fools running our country. Major fool. Now they've canceled the ability, India has canceled the ability of Canadians to go to India. We're not allowed to go there anymore. Is this a sign of intelligence? A person accuses someone of something and then presents no proof? This is what the Canadian Prime Minister did. He presented an argument in his parliament that such and such was murdered by some kind of conspiracy from India, and then provided no proof. Fools leading fools. This is madness. And all of us should realize that we're not a part of this so-called nationalistic world that all of us live in. We are the transcendental servants of Śrīla Prabhupāda. This is a war against Maya, not against this nation, against that nation. This is a war against illusion. If you want to live in illusion, just go do what you want. And I just wanted to say, that we're very happy that all of you are taking the time out of 168 hours a week. You take 4.5 hours to be a part of this program. 4.5 hours. Is that a lot of time, Dennis? Is it? But somehow or other people think, oh, it's so much time. I'm so busy. I don't have time to come to class. And this class, of all classes online, is a class you want to attend. And please share it with other people. Sorry for being so Irish today. I get like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to carry on with our reading from the wonderful diary of Śrīla Prabhupāda. And I've photographed the pages and sent them off to our production manager, Venkat Bhatta in Bangalore. And it is mentioned earlier in our reading that just to see the script of Śrīla Prabhupāda's writing is also very beneficial for the conditioned soul. So what we're getting, remember, he got this book, this diary, when he was at the Scindia Steamship Company, and he started to use it to write down his planned journey. So we're only in April of 1965, Venkat Bhatta. And I've photographed these pages because, and I wanted to make sure that all of you saw his handwriting, not just the English translation or, the English part, but to see Prabhupada's handwriting along with it, just so we can get the benefit of this transcendental experience that we're all together on, associating with Prabhupada as he moves forward in his preaching work to spread Krishna consciousness throughout the world. And by the way, there were no disciples, there was no ISKCON movement, there were no transcendental books. It was just his outside of the books that he had already produced. And this is part of the journey that he took, this great adventure, bring Krishna to the material society that we live in. So on Wednesday, April 21st, 1, to unpack the books. 2, Daniel, sorry, not Dennis. Sorry, that's my son's name. 2, C. Ram Krishna. 3, Banking Corporation. 4, Nagaram Jam. And 5, Bhakta Kal. So he's giving a list of things on his mind that he has to do. On the 29th of April, Principal, St. Xavier's Institution of Education, Bombay, kept one set to be paid on 34:65 in the afternoon. Extremely conscientious about what he was doing and how he was moving forward. Okay, May 2nd, Sunday, the 2nd of May, Kanika met at Vile Parley at his house. So he's out preaching. He kept one set of book, with all literatures to decide in 4 to 5 days. He gave me some addresses of friends to be seen. So Prabhupada was leaving them on consignment. Very interesting, but not forgetting. So you can consider that when you're doing your book distribution, to do things like that. I've given out 2 Gitas recently. I'm still waiting for payment. I'm going to have to remind these people. Tuesday, the 4th, to see Mr. C. Ray of Indochem Limited, 221 Dada Bay, Navraj Road, Bombay 1. After 11, books kept at house by servant Sanjik. Books kept at house. Wonder if he dropped them off. But it determined to distribute Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Thursday, the 6th, to set the Indochem, 2 to see Chokshi Desai, not sure of the names, to see Somaniji, incredible, 4 to see Bank and Prema Kurti and Mafatlal. I think that's a very rich family. And 5 to see Janmana Das. And 6, if possible, see Pratatap Singh. So he's stepping forward here. And here we go. Monday to see Bakal at Tari Day at 12 noon. Telephone Kanakia at 9 a.m. Tuesday, the 11th, to see Bakal before 1 p.m. to remind Chandrasekhar of my letter of 29,465, as well as of the change of address. On the Wednesday, the 12th of May, to see Bhaktakal between 4 to 5, to see Vivanti Bai 3 to 4, and to see 4 p.m., whoever it is. And the last page, did I send you the last page, Venkapata?
I didn't receive it.
Okay, so we'll leave it at that. Sometimes I forget. But gives you an idea, everyone, of how diligent and determined Śrīla Prabhupāda was to distribute the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam to others. All glories to the Sankirtan movement. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda. Let's move forward with the chanting of Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Please chant along. Hopefully we'll have the words up there. And by the way, this looks like it was in New York City in 1972. I do recall being there in this video, if he shows that again. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Banachari. Jamuna Tira Banachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Banadhari Yasodā-nandana Dāsa Yasodā-nandana Dāsa Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Founder-Ācārya Jaya Radha Madhava Founder-Ācārya Jai Amasvat Paramahansa Parivrajagācārya Sattara Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki Jai Nāvācārya Śrī Haridas Thakur ki Jai Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Śrīvāsādi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki Jai Sri Radha Krishna Mokh Gopinath Sam Khand Radha Khand Giridhar ki Jai Vrindavan Dham ki Jai Navadvip Dham ki Jai Ganga Mai की जाए जमुना माई की जाए गुरु द्वारका धाम की जाए स्वामी तो भक्तविंद की जाए और ग्लोरीज टू देयर सिमर और ग्लोरीज टू देयर सिमर थैंक यू वेरी मच
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Narayanam namaskritya. Narayanam namaskritya. Naram cheva narottamam. Naram cheva narottamam. Devim saraswatim vyasam. Devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayet. Tato jayam mudirayet. One should utter the means of conquest, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, after offering respectful obeisances, one, to the personality of Godhead Narayana, two, to the Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, three, to the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and then four, to Śrīla Vyasadeva, the author. Welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. We will be reading from the original 1962 New Delhi edition. And before, just as we do every time that we have one of these meetings, we read a few verses discussing the importance and sanctity of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. This will be from Canto 1, Chapter 2, from text number 15, we will read a few verses. Yadanudyasina yuktaha karamagranti nibhandanam Chindanti kovidastasya korna kuryadakataratim. Intelligent persons do cut off the knot of reactionary work by remembrance of the personality of Godhead. Therefore, who will not give attention to his message? Text number 16. Shushrushoho Shraddadhanasya Vasudeva Kataruchihi Syanmahat Sevaya Vipraha Punyatirtha Nishevanat. O the twice-born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all ranges of vice, a standard of great service is done. And as the result of such great service, affinity in the messages of Vasudeva is made possible. Shrinvatam svakata Krishnaham punya shravana kirtanaham hridyantastoya badrani vidhunoti suritsatam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is also the Paramatma in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, does cleanse the desire for material enjoyment in the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge for hearing his, Krishna's messages, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nashta prayeshu avabhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in the Bhagavatam class or rendering service unto the pure devotees, all that is inauspicious in the heart of a candidate becomes destroyed almost to nil, and thus loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental song, comes into being an irrevocable fact. Tadarajastamo bhavaha kamalobhadayaschaye chetayetera viddham stitam sattve prasidati. As soon as irrevocable loving service is fixed up in one's heart, at that time the effects of the nature's mode of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire and hankerings, etc., do disappear from one's heart, and he becomes fixed up in the mode of goodness, which makes him completely happy. So just want to remind ourselves, today we'll be reading from Canto 1, Chapter 3, text number 39, if I'm correct, Venkat Bhatta Prabhu.
Yes, that's right.
And I believe the all English synonyms, translations, and purports by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. Ataiha danya bhagavanta itvam yadva sudeva akila lokanati kuruvanti sarvatmana bhavam na yatra bhuyaha parivartam graha. Atha, thus, iha, in this world, danya, sorry about that, bhagavanta, perfectly cognizant, itam, such, yad, what, vasudeve, unto the personality of Godhead, akila, all embracing, lokanata, unto the proprietor of all the universe, kurvanti, does inspire, saravatmaka, 100%, atma, spirit, bhavam, ecstasy, na, never, yatra, wherein, bhuyaha, again, parivarta, repetition, ugraha, dreadful. Translation by His Divine Grace, Śrīla Prabhupāda. Thus, by such inquiries only in this world, one is successful and perfectly cognizant, because it invokes a transcendental ecstasy unto the personality of Godhead, who is the proprietor of all the universes, in which guarantees 100% immunity from the dreadful repetition of birth and death. Purport. The inquiries of the sages headed by Saunaka are herewith eulogized by Sutta Goswami on the merit of their transcendental nature. As it is already concluded, only the devotees of the Lord can know him to considerable extent, and nobody else can know him even by an inch. So the devotees are perfectly cognizant of all spiritual knowledge. The personality of Godhead is the last word in absolute truth. Impersonal Brahman and localized Paramatma Supersoul are all included in the knowledge of the personality of Godhead. So one who knows the personality of Godhead can know automatically all about him, including his multi-potencies and expansions. So the devotees are congratulated as all successful. A 100% devotee of the Lord is immune from the material miseries of repeated birth and death, which is dreadful as anything. Text number 40. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishihi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Danyam Swastyayanam Mahat. Idam, this Bhagavatam, book containing the narration of the personality of Godhead and his pure devotees, Nama, of the name, Puranam, supplementary to the Vedas, Brahma Samhitam, incarnation of the Lord Sri Krishna, Uttama Shloka, of the personality of Godhead, Charitam, activities, Chakara, compiled, Bhagavan, incarnation of the personality of Godhead, Rishi, Sri Vyasadeva, Nishreshaya, for the ultimate good, Lokasya, of all people in general, Danyam, fully successful, Swastyayanam, all blissful, Mahat, all perfect. Translation. This scripture of the name Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is literary incarnation of God, and it is compiled by Śrīla Vyasadeva, the incarnation of God. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people in general, and as such, it is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Purport. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu declared that Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is spotless sound representation of all Vedic knowledge and historical digests. There are only selected history of great devotees who are in direct contact with the personality of Godhead. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is the literary incarnation of Lord Sri Krishna and is therefore non-different from him. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam shall be worshipped as respectfully as we do worship the Lord, and as such, we can derive the ultimate blessings of the Lord by its careful and patient study. As God is all light, all blissful, and all perfect, so also is Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. We can have all the transcendental light of the Supreme Brahman Sri Krishna from the recitation of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, provided it is received through the medium of the transparent spiritual master. Lord Chaitanya's private secretary, Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami, advised all intending visitors who came to see the Lord at Puri that they should make a study of the Bhagavatam from the Person Bhagavatam. Person Bhagavatam is the self-realized bona fide spiritual master, and through him only one may understand the lessons of Bhagavatam in order to receive the desired result. One can derive from the studies of the Bhagavatam all benefits that is possible to be derived from the personal presence of the Lord. It carries with it all the transcendental blessings of Lord Sri Krishna, as we can expect by his personal contact. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master. We all offer our respectful obeisances unto our spiritual master, Śrīla Prabhupāda, who has opened my eyes, which were blinded by the darkness of ignorance, with the torchlight of knowledge. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, who is very dear to Lord Krishna on this earth, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Our respectful obeisances are unto you, O spiritual master, servant of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami. You are kindly preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya Deva and delivering the Western countries, which are filled with impersonalism and voidism. Bhaktisiddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Let me offer my obeisances unto my Guru Maharaj, who is a disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is always calm and joyful, and who bears the name Bhaktivedanta. Bhagavad Vandanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatehi Visheshataha. Worship of the Supreme Lord is naturally very sweet, just like milk is originally sweet. Just as milk becomes sweeter by adding a little sugar, in the same way, worship of the Supreme Lord becomes sweeter by first worshiping the bona fide Guru. Adadana-strinam danteridam yachi punaha punaha Śrīmad-Rupa-padam bhoja dhulishyam janma janmani. Clasping a straw between my teeth, I repeatedly beg to attain the dust of the lotus feet of Srimad Rupa Goswami, birth after birth. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Amsho Bhagavato Smyaham Sadadaso Asmi Sarvata Tat Kripa Pikshako Nityam Tat Prishta Satkaromi Shvam. I am a tiny part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and I'm always in every way His eternal servant. As I'm always hoping for His mercy and kindness, I offer myself to His most dear servitor, my spiritual master. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In the Śrīmad-Bhāgavad Gita, there is a description by Lord Krishna himself that one who studies this great conversation between Lord Sri Krishna and Arjuna is worshiping Krishna by his intelligence. There are numerous descriptions in the Shastras of the glories of hearing Śrīmad-Bhāgavad Gita and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. It's very important to note that Śrīla Prabhupada every night, when he used to translate the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and dictate his purports, he had a very large book which contained the Sanskrit commentaries of numerous great acharyas, not only in our sampradaya, but in other sampradayas as well. They had Sridhar Swami, the original commentator, Vallabhacharya, Vijayadvaja Tirtha from the Madhva Sampradaya, Veera Raghavacharya from the Ramanuja Sampradaya. He has various other commentaries, very old commentaries. In our Sampradaya, we have the notes and commentaries of Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Baladevi Vidyabhushana, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And Srila Prabhupada would distill, he would take the essence of all these different commentaries and present his purports, his Bhaktivedanta purports. Now this is very important because when we read the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, it is not some kind of concocted ideas, some speculative ideas. Any one of you who have read the book Dialectical Spiritualism, which was a compilation of different conversations between Śrīla Prabhupada and some of his disciples, analyzing and discussing various great philosophers, all the way to great philosophers from Greece, from Rome, from Italy, great philosophers, great European minds, great European philosophers, American philosophers. And Prabhupada would give the Vedic view, the Krishna conscious view, because everything that he's speaking is very nicely presented on the basis of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. When we carefully look in the Bhagavatam itself, in Canto 1, Chapter 1, text number 3, right in the beginning, there's a nice description of what is the essence of this literature. Why is there so much importance of this literature, the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam? Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam, shukamukadamrita drabasam yutam, pibata bhagavata rasamalayam, muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavukaha. O the expert and thoughtful men, please know it that Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is the mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literatures. And it is emanated from the lips of Sri Shukadev Goswami. For this, the nectarine fruit has become more tasteful, although it is already readily swallowable nectarine juice, which is relished by all up to those who are already liberated souls. Now, this is very important. Anybody who is reasonably familiar with the history of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, we know that when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Jagannath Puri in the last years of his life, he used to hear Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam with the explanation of Swarup Damodar Goswami, his confidential associate. Very, very important. Because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu put so much emphasis, so much importance on hearing the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. That is why Śrīla Prabhupāda, before he came to America, he became armed. He became accompanied by his translation of the first canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the first 3 volumes. That was his real wealth. There's a very interesting conversation in the Prabhupada Conversation book where it described that when Prabhupada was ready to disembark on the boat in Boston, he requested Captain Pandya, the captain of the Jaladuta, to buy a set of Bhagavatam because he didn't have enough money. I think he had enough, like 40 rupees, which was not very much. And the captain gladly gave him $20, 20 US dollars, to buy his Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. And we see when we read these descriptions that Vishwakarma Prabhu is reading with regards to Prabhupada's diary in the beginning in 1965, 1966, what is he doing? He's constantly, every time he gets the chance, he's trying to preach the message of Bhagavatam, trying to distribute these books, trying to inject this very special transcendental knowledge to anyone that would hear. And this was the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all of our great acharyas. It's interesting, one night I had the chance to watch Śrīla Prabhupada translate. And Prabhupada sometime, he would look at the commentaries. Some of these commentaries were in Sanskrit and some of them were in Bengali. And he would dictate into the dictaphone very carefully the meaning of every word for word. And then the purport, and sometimes he would stop for several seconds or a minute or two. It was like a meditation. It was though there was like a direct link from Goloka Vrindavan to his brain and his heart, and it was manifested there. This is not an ordinary book. Just like we see here in this particular text, this text number 40, about the great importance and the great power of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Prabhupada translate, this scripture of the name Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is literary incarnation of God, and it is compiled by Śrīla Vyasadeva, the incarnation of God. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people in general, and as such, it is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Very, very nice. And Prabhupada explains in the purport, says, we can have all the transcendental light of the Supreme Brahman Sri Krishna from the recitation of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, provided it is received through the medium of the transparent spiritual master. Lord Chaitanya's private secretary, Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami, advised all intending visitors who came to see the Lord at Puri that they should make a study of the Bhagavatam from the person Bhagavatam. Person Bhagavatam is the self-realized, bona fide spiritual master, and through him only one may understand the lessons of Bhagavatam in order to receive the desired result. One can derive from the studies of the Bhagavatam all benefits that is possible to be derived from the personality of God, the personal presence of the Lord. It carries with it all the transcendental blessings of Lord Sri Krishna, as we can expect by his personal contact. This is very important. So important. Several times, Prabhupada would complain that his disciples were not studying his books, were not reading his books. By disciples, we include followers, sympathizers, like that. These books were not written just to be decorations on the shelf. They look nice on the shelf, yes. Prabhupada many times stated, they're not meant only for selling. They're meant for reading, for studying. And here we see why. Because this is the direct manifestation of Lord Krishna. Direct manifestation of Lord Krishna. So this is very important. We see a little bit later on in text number 43 next week, it is explained, Krishna Swadamo Pagate Dharma Jnana Dibisaha Kalo Nashta Drishamesha Puranarko Aduno Ditaha. The Bhagavad Purana is just as brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna in his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. Persons who have lost sight on account of the dense darkness of ignorance due to the age of Kali shall get light out of it. So we see in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam itself, it's because somebody may raise the argument, why is there so much emphasis on this one particular book? When we say Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, we also include Śrīmad-Bhagavad Gita, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. These are the principal literatures which His Divine Grace Śrīla Prabhupāda has given for the salvation of human society, and also primarily to educate his students and his followers and his disciples. We see in the Vedas, there is a frequent saying, Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, come out of the darkness and go in the light. What is the light? The light is that transcendental message of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. We see in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the discussions between Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how much importance Lord Chaitanya gave to the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Because in this age, very few people can understand or study Vedanta Sutras and study all the Upanishads and Sanskrit grammar and the whole science of logic and so many different complex literatures. Very difficult. People don't have the time, and many of them don't have the brain. But Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is the natural commentary on Vedanta Sutra. We see in the Chaitanya Charitamrita how Śrīla Prabhupāda is quoting from Krishna Das Kaviraj, who is quoting from the Garuda Purana, explaining what is this great literature. Vedartha Paribrimhitaha, that this Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is the natural commentary on Vedanta Sutra. During the manifested presence of His Divine Grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he commissioned his disciples to compile a book called Gaudiya Canto. This is a book in 20 chapters, which is considered a necklace of Gaudiya philosophy. And it has 20 different categories where all the most essential important verses are given about Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, Radha Krishna, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the Jiva. All of these different categories are very nicely summarized with so many important verses that are given from Chaitanya Charitamrita, from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. And we see that in the compilation of these different verses, there are so many wonderful verses that explain very clearly. For example, in one place, they quote a verse from the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, from the 12th canto, 13th chapter, text 18th. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Puranam Amalam Yat Vaishnavanam Priyam Yasmin Paramaham Syamekam Amalam Jnanam Param Giyate Yatra Jnana Viraga Bhaktir Sahitam Neshkarmyam Avishkritam Tachrinvam Supatam Vicharana Paro Bhaktya Vimuchen Naraha. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is the spotless Purana. It is especially dear to the Vaishnavas. It has knowledge that is especially appreciated by the Paramamsas. When carefully studied, heard, and understood again and again, it opens the door to pure devotion, through which one never returns to the bondage of illusion. Very, very nice. And here we have, for example, another explanation This is cited from the Hari Bhakti Vilas. It explains, Artoyam Brahmasutranam Bharatartha Vinirnayaha Gayatri Bhasha Ruposo Vedartha Paribrimhitaha. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam explains the meaning of Vedanta and the purpose of Mahabharata. It reveals the inner meaning of the Gayatri mantra and the essence of the Vedas. Again, this is quoted from the Garuda Purana in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. Very, very special. So this is why Śrīla Prabhupada is given his Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam purports to give the essence of the most perfect scriptures so that people would get the ultimate benefit. A few days ago, somebody sent me one of these little YouTube where Prabhupada was explaining that this human form of life is very, very important. Why? Because in this human form of life, one can stop and finish the suffering of this material world. We often hear people, like we see in the news right now, there's so much complaints about the war in the Middle East between Israel and Hamas. People are complaining they want a ceasefire, there should be more humanitarian pause of activities, pause of fighting, they should do this, they should do that. Why are people allowing all this suffering to go on? Why is such and such people are attacking this group of people? Because this is the material world. Prabhupada explained one time the root cause of war is this killing of animals. You're taking their life. In Sanskrit, the word meat is called mamsha. Mamsha, mam means me, sa means he. You take his life, in this life, in the next life, that animal would take your life. And some people will say, but I can't see that, I can't experience that. Oh, you will. We see all the wars, all the calamities that are taking place. This is due to this unrestricted animal slaughter. But some people will say, but Jesus, he ate fish. Prabhupada one time, when he was confronted with that proposition, he says, Jesus can eat the whole universe if he wants. He's a pure devotee. He has all the power. But that is no excuse for slaughterhouse, for inflicting untold suffering on the animals. So this is a very important point. One has to stop. We were discussing yesterday morning a point in the Bhagavad Gita verse, Yesham tvantakatam papam jananam punyakarmanam, that one has to stop these sinful activities. And then the spiritual life will begin. Then the intelligence, the motive, passion, and ignorance will subside, will clear up, and then one can be situated in a mode of goodness. This is what the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam does. It gives us instruction of how to structure our lives in such a way to recover from the madness of the material world. This is how to end up the suffering. This is how to finish this cycle of birth and death. We see in the Bhagavad Gita, in the very beginning, after Arjuna told Krishna, Shishyasteham Shadimam Tvam Prapadnam. That's it. Now I'm confused. I'm accepting you as my spiritual master. What did Krishna do? When you look at the structure of chapter 2 in the Bhagavad Gita, from chapter 2, text 11, all the way to text 40, 42, Krishna is giving one instruction after the other. You're not this body. This body is temporary. You are an eternal spirit soul. The body will go on to an next body after you're finished, at the time of death, based on your activities. But one has to develop intelligence to try to finish this problem. Just like government, many times, they will imprison criminals and they will spend money, try to rehabilitate some people, try to give them some training or some chance for a better life. But what they find many times is when they are released, many times people go right back to the old habit, right back to the old criminal mindset. And this is the disease in the material world. Everybody is thinking, I'm going to try to be happy here. It's not going to happen. Anityam mashukam lokam, Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita. Anityam, it is temporary. Asukam, it is not a happy place. In another place in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains the same principle. Dukkalayam asasvatam. This place is a place of misery. So sometimes we see the atheistic or agnostic class of men there wondering, if there is a God, why does he allow this suffering? No. Why do you commit sinful activities? That is the root cause of suffering. The bad karma is the result of bad activities, vikarma, sinful activities. So one has to stop the bad vikarma, follow some proper principles, elevate the consciousness to the mode of goodness, and then there will be a lessening of the influence of the material energy. And one has to train the mind to think of Krishna. And at the time of death, Janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tatvataha tyaktva deham punarajanma naiti mamiti sarjuna. For one who remembers, understands the transcendental activities of Lord Krishna, at the time of death will not have to come back and suffer. Will go back to Godhead, back to the kingdom of God. And this can be done in this life. This is the instruction of the great acharyas, of the great transcendental professors. It is not complicated. It is not very difficult. There's a nice place in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, how Śrīla Prabhupāda explains that Krishna consciousness is very simple. You remain in your position. You may remain with your family, wife, children. You chant Hare Krishna, offer your foodstuff to Krishna, hear Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and in this way, you go back home back to Godhead. Prabhupada also in other places, in this way, you may become a spiritual master. Simply repeat the message without changing, without adulterating, without concocting. Then everything progresses very nicely. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for your wonderful explanation of today's verses from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. And moving forward in the program, I'm going to call upon Janaspriya, Aprakrita, Balaram in Turkey, and Dharma Bhavana in Dallas to give their comments. But before we move forward with that, I wanted to share some insights based on today's discussion and on the purports from Śrīla Prabhupada in continuation with our study. The pure devotee is the transparent via medium of the Supreme Lord. This was Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu principle that I was taught by Sripati, our friend from who was in Toronto, and you knew him also in Montreal. Incidentally, he just posted a picture of the staircase at 3720 Park Avenue. You know how you go up the stairs and there was that platform there, getting up there. Now, Prabhupada would march up that high staircase to that platform, and I remember it vividly. He didn't mention what it was, but I had the opportunity to work in the kitchen there to be a substitute cook for Śrīla Prabhupada when he wasn't there, and I was the head of the kitchen and the Sankirtan leader at the time. But Prabhupada was the totally surrendered soul of his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta, and it was demonstrated when he was in Montreal, how he would stand in line with all the devotees, because there was just, if you recall, there was just one washroom, just a simple washroom it was a bowling alley, and he would stand in line. I always think about this, how everybody would there was no alternative, so he would stand in line and take his turn for the washroom back then in the 60s because he wasn't interested in fame or fortune, but only in the service of his spiritual master and the service of his disciples. Prabhupada was the servant of his disciples. He wasn't trying to project himself as the master. The pure devotee surrenders his entire life to the service of his guru and the service of his mission to serve Krishna. We can see that our Prabhupada had been focused on this when we read his diary. Actually, this morning's reading was very informative because we could see Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, how he was, even before the formation of ISKCON, he was focused on distributing his own translations of the Bhagavatam, which are, as he mentioned in the purport, the literary incarnation of Lord Sri Krishna, which is in the purport here in text 40. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam should be worshipped and is therefore non-different from him. So Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is therefore non-different from him. So let's connect the dots here, everyone. If the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is non-different than Krishna, if you have the pure devotee who is representing Krishna in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, like Śrīla Prabhupāda is in his translations of these literatures with these amazing purports, then he is non-different than his purports. He is non-different than his conversations. And he is non-different than his lectures. In other words, Śrīla Prabhupada is alive in sound vibration. This is a misunderstanding of some of our God brothers who believe that you have to be living in this tabernacle of the material body of bile, mucus, stool, and urine, thinking that this is the person. No, the soul is the transcendental driver of the body. And this body is simply a machine made of material elements. And the transcendental sound from the pure devotee is non-different than him. This is called Vani, the sound incarnation of the pure devotee. And this is the science that we study. That's what this science means. It's a science of sound. It's not a science of mundane physical presence of certain individuals, which is sometimes represented by certain people. Prabhupada was the transparent via media of Krishna. And I was saying to Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu that Sripati Prabhu, who is in England now, he transmitted that information to us when we were young devotees. I can remember first going to Detroit in 1971 in July from Hamilton here to meet Prabhupada for the first time. And we got there, and there was a preparation before, as you know. Before Prabhupada was coming to a temple, I was seeing the pictures of Jefferson Avenue. And Prabhupada was going to stay there. Bhagawan was the president back then. He was originally from Buffalo, and he moved to Detroit and took up that responsibility. And so we all went down there, and we made the preparation. There was tremendous preparation that went on with 100, maybe about 200 devotees that had assembled from the different temples. They come up from Cleveland. They were there from all the different surrounding Chicago, the different cities, Toronto, Montreal. People were coming from everywhere to be in association with Prabhupada, and we were making all this preparation. And that was also very blissful because everyone was so focused on service. There was no dilly-dally, let's say. And so the next morning we had worked all night. Pretty much everybody worked all night in preparation for his visit. And then we went out to the airport and we went in our van. I remember going there and we were walking up to the airport. I was so nervous to see Prabhupada because we understood that Prabhupada was not an ordinary person. We actually, all the devotees had that basic realization that here was a very special soul. I can remember going back to the van and picking up some Back to Godheads because Prabhupada had told us, the most important thing is to distribute books. And when I got back into the airport, Prabhupada had already landed and he was in the waiting area. And they had erected a seat, a asana for him to sit in the airport. And so he sat down and all of us, all the over 100 devotees were all sitting there around him and he spoke to us. And it was very interesting. It was so auspicious for us to be there. There was such a vibration, such a transcendental atmosphere that it was set by his presence and the presence of his disciples. And I still remember looking at Prabhupada when he first poured water down his throat. I'd never seen that, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. Never in my life. How Prabhupada took the cup of water and he leaned his head back and he poured the water down through his mouth into his system. And it looked like silver streaming down into his mouth. And at that time, I still remember this vividly. I could see that he wasn't the body. You could see that this senior man was eternally youthful because of his message of eternal truth from his spiritual master and from Krishna. Vividly, I can still see it. It's one of the greatest moments in my life to get that perspective on Śrīla Prabhupāda that was blessed by the association of that wonderful devotee, Shripati, who gave us that insight. The sound of Bhagavatam is a literary incarnation and non-different from Krishna. And the sound vibration of Śrīla Prabhupāda in his books, classes, and conversations that were captured by his disciples are non-different than him. This is the message today, that Prabhupada lives with us in sound vibration, and his disciples live with him. This is Krishna consciousness. And this is what's special about the Prabhupada Disciples Association and these weekly classes, that we present Prabhupada to its membership. Now, someone could criticize this. Go ahead. The dogs may bark, but the camel train will keep moving. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, if you could please further the discussion.
I find it very interesting that you're quoting Shripati Prabhu. When I first came to Montreal in 1969, well, I had seen Prabhupada 2 years earlier in 1967, but I was a minor, and Prabhupada looked at me probably for a split second, not even a second, a split second. And it was like some kind of a look like you've come to the right place. Prabhupada was doing kirtan at the Indian Pavilion at the International 1967 Exposition in Montreal, Canada. So 2 years later, I met some devotee and I went to Montreal and came to the temple. And one of the first devotees I met was Sripati, very tall, very blissful. Sripati always had a smile on his face. And I remember one time, he was in the kitchen when I first saw him. He was cooking pakoras and halva and preparing some elaborate preparation for a Sunday feast or a special festival. And I remember an incident one time where the devotees had received a tape recording of Śrīla Prabhupāda chanting Govinda Jaya Jaya and a brief explanation. And a Sunday night after the feast, Sripati Prabhu got all the devotees together and he was explaining to us what this was. He was explaining that this is very special. This is the recording of a pure devotee. That Śrīla Prabhupada is a completely pure devotee who is in direct touch with Krishna. He says we have to listen to this very carefully. And we all listened to this chanting of Govinda Jaya Jaya. But it was especially sweet the way that Sripati had presented it. You could see that even in that time, he had some very deep realization of Śrīla Prabhupada, very deep realization of his divine grace and his position, and great appreciation for Śrīla Prabhupada. He was a devotee that he was quite an amazing soul. He's still an amazing soul. I don't know how to get in touch with him or anything, but this is just one of the stories. And later on, early in 1970, in the spring, we went from Montreal to Toronto at the temple on Gerrard Street. And we went there and we had these long Samkirtan. And in those days, when you went on Samkirtan, it would be like 4, 5, 6, sometimes 7 hours of chanting and book distribution. So we would walk all the way from the temple, all the way to Yonge Street, go up and down Yonge Street, and we would chant. If the people would assemble, we would give them sometimes little sticks of incense or back to Godhead. And we had all these cards where it says, chant Hare Krishna and your life will be sublime, the address of the temple and the Maha Mantra. And we would give those cards to people, invite them to come over, distribute little back to God. Is in those days, we didn't have too many big books. But it was quite a fascinating experience to be with his devotees, because you would chant and you would preach, and it was like very, very beautiful. Very beautiful experience. Long live Sripati Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Yes, thank you. And all the wonderful devotees, past, present, and future, that will take shelter of this mission of Śrīla Prabhupada to help the conditioned souls make advancement in Krishna consciousness. We have a wonderful assembly of devotees with us today on this call, and I'm going to ask them to come forward and share their realizations with us based on today's talk and anything they have on their mind they'd like to tell us in terms of their Krishna consciousness. Jonas Priya in Hawaii, who's a wonderful Prabhupada disciple, has been a Prabhupada disciple for a very long time. Can you share some of your realizations with us today on the program?
Hare Krishna, all glories to Śrīla Prabhupada. Please accept my humble obeisances. Yes, we are so fortunate beyond any way we look at it, that we became in contact with a pure devotee of Krishna, that he didn't care about his name being known or what he was, but all he wanted is to give Krishna. No Prabhupada, no Krishna. So Śrīla Prabhupada came. So many Bhogi yogis came before. Not one person became a devotee of Krishna and Śrīla Prabhupada, because that was he's empowered to do this mission. And he had this order of his guru, and he took it so seriously. So when this formula comes together, when there's sincere sincerity in our heart to follow the order of the Guru, then amazing things start happening. And we all have experienced this in our life as devotees, that we were sent to a city with no money and open temples and started programs, and Prabhupada made ordinary people do extraordinary things. This was Prabhupada's special mystical power. He could empower, he's still empowering us to talk right now. Prabhupada is empowering us. As soon as we want to praise Krishna, Prabhupada smiles, and then Krishna smiles, and then Radharani smiles. And when Radharani smiles, game over. Prabhupada says, if Radharani tells Krishna, oh, this boy is very nice, then Krishna says, okay, bring him back. Has no choice. So our goal should be to please Śrīla Prabhupada in any way we can. And if we are so entangled in material activity that we cannot participate directly in Harinam, book distribution, broadcasting, then let's support those people who are doing that. If we cannot do ourselves, then if we support the people that are doing this, like these Prabhus here, putting these programs every day, this is a job. This is hard. So let's cooperate in any way we can, and let's keep attracting people. It was nice today. I saw we had 40 people there at one time. That's very enlightening. So let's keep inviting people. Let's everybody invite one person at least once a month. Try to all month think, oh, next month I'm going to invite so and start working on that person. And just I tell people, hey, listen, just put on, just tune in. Even if some people say, oh, I don't have time, or blah, blah, blah. I said, no matter, just put on the show and listen when you can. If you're in that room, just put it on. And eventually they'll end up listening because this is so attractive. There's no other program of the bodies presenting what this group is doing. We're presenting Śrīla Prabhupada as it is, not as we like it. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu, for your comments. We have a wonderful devotee out of Montreal who is French Canadian and very sincere. So everyone should know that. And Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu has been at his house. He gets up very early in the morning, and he constantly is engaged in the Sankirtan process, organizing parties to go out on the streets for chanting. He also does prasadam distribution and book distribution. He sent me a case of softbound Gitas some time ago. We distributed them thanks to him. He also created these bookmarks for us and sent them to me here in the Hamilton Yatra. And I've known this Prabhu. I was the vice president of Montreal when he joined back in the 70s. His name is Aprakrita, and I know he's shy to speak because of Francais English, but he does understand English, and if he could share a few words with us this morning, it would be greatly appreciated. Glories to Prabhupada. Aprakrita, your microphone. Put your speaker on. Put the microphone on. You're muted. Mute. Can't hear you. Push the button.
He's pushed the button. I think Venkat Prabhu needs to unmute him.
No, it looks like there's some issue, some other issue. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Prabhu, no microphone today. Get Madhukanta to help you fix that. We'll call upon you next time. We'll move forward because your mic's not on. But Haribo, you look fantastic. Fantastic. Balaram, in Turkey, I keep wanting to say Poland. Maybe you could share your realizations this morning with our group.
Hare Krishna. I'll give you a little realization quickly, but I have a question on the class also, if that's okay. This week, my realization, one of the things that was happening in my head that came, is really strong, actually, quite strong, was if I take you with me on a little bit of a serious meditation, so just meditate on this. If Superman came and held your hand, and you were walking down the street with Superman, and you wanted to do things, you wanted to say things, you wanted to achieve things, how would you feel? What power would you think you have, and how protected would you feel? Like that. So if you really take that and just meditate on that a little bit seriously, and then you turn to Prabhupada, and Superman is insignificant and compared to Prabhupada, having Prabhupada. So if we really deeply meditate and solidify that meditation, that we have Prabhupada behind us, on us, in us, we carry Prabhupada. And with that state of consciousness and with that state of faith, when you have it, how would you carry yourself? How powerful would you feel? How protected would you feel? How fearless would you feel to go out into the world and do whatever preaching you need to do with that state of consciousness? And I think if you can meditate on that and really hold that, it really help you push your preaching, whatever you're doing anywhere in the world, forward. I really need a lot of that because I'm in a Muslim country, so there's a lot of fear here.
What was that question you had, Prabhu?
Yeah.
Go ahead, please give us the question. We're moving forward.
I just put it on the chat. In today's Bhagavatam class, it was said in the purport, the last part of the purport, I think on the text 49, that one can derive, which is very similar to what you said, actually. So it's just focusing more on that same point. One can derive from the study of the Bhagavatam all the benefits that are possible to be derived from the personal presence of the Lord. Why? Because the Bhagavatam carries all the transcendental blessings of Lord Sri Krishna that we can expect from his personal presence. So I think most people are already clear on that. But what I see, and I don't really have a question, I do, but I don't, is that we take this also with Prabhupada. That exactly what's been said here about Krishna and the Bhagavatam is exactly applicable to Prabhupada also. What was said also about Vishwakarma Prabhu is that in his tapes, in his audio, is exactly Prabhupada's being carried, and we get exactly the same benefit as his personal presence. So building on that, I want to ask Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, for the last probably 3-4 years, as I've been reading stuff about Krishna, Prabhupada is saying it about Krishna, and I'm reading and I'm like, hey, that's applicable to Prabhupada. Prabhupada's also like that. Prabhupada's also like that. Prabhupada's talks about Krishna also revealed to me a lot about Prabhupada. So I want to ask you, is there any danger, or is that proper? Can we do it more, or is there any danger? What's your advice on that? Because Prabhupada's speaking about Krishna, and there's me taking it that, wow, this is applicable. This is talking about Prabhupada also.
Well, it's a very good point that you're raising. It's a very good point of realization. And as we know, just like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Yayatamam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham. As they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So depending on the purity of the chanting, depending how one follows, depending on many different factors, one will get a corresponding realization, also to do some service. Because what we see is that, and this is one thing that we've been speaking about and discussing, there are many devotees who don't accept this level of realization that you've mentioned, because they interpreted that their physicality is more important than Prabhupada's eternal presence in his books. they preach that their physicality should be emphasized rather than Śrīla Prabhupāda's presence. And that is not proper. That is not bona fide Siddhanta. When Prabhupada says, I shall never die, I shall live from my books and you will utilize, they don't accept that. When Prabhupada said on the 13th of January 1969 in Los Angeles in a Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam class, what we have heard from the spiritual master, that is living. You never hear them quoting that or discussing that. So in other words, we don't want to find fault with devotees. This is not the idea of this whole discussion, that we're going to find fault or attack other devotees. That is not what we're trying to do. We're trying to put things in perspective to understand the fundamental point, just like you presented it, of why it is so important to associate with the spiritual master by submissive oral reception. That is the real association. Why did Prabhupada say in so many of his letters and lectures that Vani is more important than Vapu? Now we have a whole group of people preaching that their Vapu is more important than Prabhupada's Vani. That is nonsense. And that is not going anywhere. That will not be successful ever. Because what you've described, this understanding of just like Krishna is present in the pages of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and one can get direct association of Krishna by hearing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Similarly, these purports are the direct association of Krishna's pure devotee. These purports in Prabhupada's books were dictated by Krishna himself to his pure devotee. And what is the reference for this? This is in Chaitanya Charitamrita in Nyanti Lila, chapter 5, where Prabhupada explains that when the spiritual master speaks, it's to be understood that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is speaking through him. This is a very important point, because what we have here is a complete misrepresentation of the philosophy, and that's the basis for people trying to change and innovate Prabhupada's books, trying to make better English or grammatical embellishment. We don't need grammatical embellishment programs. We just need to hear exactly what Prabhupada is given. And if we do that, then our preaching will become successful. Somebody here, Chaitanya Gadgil Prabhu, he says, Madhurvisa, I was referring to a living spiritual master. Prabhupada, spiritual master is not the question. Spiritual master is eternal. Spiritual master is eternal. So your question is, without spiritual master, you cannot be at any stage of your life. You may accept this spiritual master or that spiritual master. That is a different thing, but you have to accept. As you say that by reading Bible, when you read Bible, that means you're following the spiritual master, represented by some priests or some clergymen in the light of Lord Jesus Christ. So any case, you have to follow a spiritual master. There cannot be any question without spiritual master. Is that clear? Very important conversation from Śrīla Prabhupada. This is in October of 1968 in Seattle, USA. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I hope it helps.
Hare Bo. The Aprakrita, your microphone's working, is it? Maybe you can share.
Good. Okay. Yeah, I want to tell you that I'm not very comfortable to talk at the front of many people who speak English. I'm French Canadian. Okay. You talked a few minutes ago about the Park Avenue Temple here in Montreal. I went there in 75, I think, you know. And at that time, there was what his name? Mahaprabhu. Anyway, I forgot his name, you know. And
Mayapur Shasha?
Mayapur Sesha, exactly. Mayapur Sesha Prabhu. He was always giving me Mahaprashadam. I went there maybe around 10 times, and he was always giving me banana and coconuts. And I did not like it so much, but it was Mahaprashadam. I became a devotee, you know, with that, you know. And I just at the front, always at the front of the temple, at the front of the building. The building is still there, okay? It's around 20 minutes from my place. There's a big tilak, a part of the tilak there, still there. When I passed there, I remember some souvenir. Souvenir, is that souvenir in French, in English? Souvenir? Remembrance, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was, after the departure of Prabhupada, when I was at the temple here in Montreal, I was a devotee, full-time devotee at that time also. And Nandikeshvara Prabhu, he was a temple president at that time, he said, now we have to accept these 11 gurus. He said, okay, I knew nothing about that, not so much, And a few weeks after, maybe 4 weeks after, he said, there is a devotee. He don't accept that. He don't accept these 11 guru. I was thinking, oh, okay. It was some question coming in my mind, And few weeks after, we went to Toronto for the Ratha Yatra. And I was with Priya Bandhu. You know him, Vishakama. And he said, we saw a devotee there. He was not exactly with the group of devotee, but he was dressed like a devotee, and Priya Bandhu told me he's the one who don't accept these 11 guru. I said, oh, okay. But at that time, my English was poor, very poor than now, And I was ready to ask him question, but my English was too poor, Because I wanted to know exactly why we have to accept and don't accept this guru, But with the time, I learned this devotee was Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. and Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu speak very well in French, I did not know that time he was talking in French, Okay, this is what I want to share with all of you, No?
Thank you very much. We're going to wind up our show today with Dharma Bhavana sharing his realizations for our group from Dallas, Texas. Dharma Bhavana.
Hare Krishna, I'll be short. Just appreciating the class today, talking about how the books were made, how Prabhupada spoke the books into the dictaphone from the Bengali and Sanskrit commentaries of the previous acharyas, and put it in English, almost like some voice came from the Goloka Vrindavan how to do it, what words to put. And there's something by Śrīla Bhaktivedanta Saraswati that is pretty similar to this. He says, I don't read the book, I read the author. I first see the author to see if he is authentic or not. I am a proofreader. I always see what is right and what is wrong. My father trained me in proofreading, but I am not only a proofreader of the press, I am a proofreader of the world. I proofread men. I see their faults and I try to correct them. I am a proofreader of religion also. I have appeared in the Karkata Lagna astrologically. So whenever I see anything undevotional, I will act like a Karkata, a crab. If I see any so-called devotion which is not actually in the true unalloyed spirit, I shall pierce it. Bhaktivedanta Saraswati. Thank you. Haribol.
Brilliant. Thank you. Vinkat Bhatta. Is there anything we've missed or any comments you'd like to share with us before we move to the kirtan?
There's a excerpt from a letter shared in the chat. It was about we don't have time. So Śrīla Prabhupāda says,
yes,
it is always the difficulty with the karmis that they have no time for attending spiritual functions or gatherings. Shukadev Goswami analyzes the situation for the karmis in the narration of Bhagavatam as sleeping and indulging in sex life in the night, and in the daytime working hard. Where is money? Where is money? And when they have got money, how to accumulate household paraphernalia, etc. Anyway, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, even such materially absorbed persons can be extricated from their entanglement in the Maya by contact with the fenceless chanting of the Lord's holy names, Hare Krishna mantra. If you vibrate these transcendental sounds everywhere continually, it will pierce their ears and enter their hearts. And then their natural attraction for Krishna will be revived. So do not care for the temporary excuses of the unwilling and unfortunate persons. You simply carry our poor program forward, distributing Sankirtan, Prasadam, and literatures, and the effect will take place.
Fabulous. And thank you, Prakrita, for your comments about your prasadam receiving from Mayapur Shasha in Montreal back in the 70s. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda. Thank you, everyone. We'll look forward to seeing you again on Wednesday evening, Chaitanya Charitamrita reading. We're reading the three scriptures, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Bhagavad Gita. So we're giving everyone a full Bhakti program in Krishna Consciousness. Whether you're new or you've been around for a long time, the benefit is eternally blessing all of us by this transcendental programming and experience. All glories to the Sankirtan movement and the Prabhupada Disciples Association and the Hare Krishna Society, also known as the Krishna Consciousness movement. Vinkat, please bring forward the chant. Chant along, everyone, to finish off the program. And may you have a wonderful japa day. Hare Krishna.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.